Social media has screwed us up, and I'm going to show you why your views on how lean or not lean you should be have been very skewed. But don't stress, I'm also not one of those coaches that's going to tell you not to get shredded because it's overrated or it's unnecessary or any of that stuff. Because in my personal experience with myself and tons of my clients, I've found that getting to that desired level of body fat, whether that's a six-pack or just getting as lean as you want to get, does so much more than just the look. Because it unlocks copious amounts of discipline, self-belief, consistency, good habits, and self-confidence, and the list goes on. And when you get close to that goal and achieve it, it helps you realize that you are actually capable of so much more. And in my opinion, that's probably the biggest benefit people will see from getting a six-pack or getting to their desired level of body fat. And hey, it's also not mine or anyone else's position to tell you what goals you should or shouldn't go after. But I want to make sure that you fully understand the roadmap and also what it takes for most people to get a six-pack or to get to that low level of body fat. And then you can simply decide if it's worth it to you or not. Now, where the real problem lies is knowing that for 99% of people, getting a six-pack or getting to that very low level of body fat is actually not going to be sustainable year round, and you probably will feel better if you maintain just slightly fatter than that six-pack or low level of body fat. I'll use myself here as a very quick example. Here's some footage and photos from my last summer shred. Now, the leanest I got down to was about 74.5 kilos. Now, I was able to maintain this for about a month or so. Training still felt pretty good, but outside of the gym, my hunger was definitely still very, very high. My energy levels were nowhere near as high as what they could be, and my overall mood was probably not as good as it could be. But if you take a look at this photo here, as you can see, I am definitely slightly fatter, but still holding most of the leanness quite well in my opinion. Now, this is only about 1 to 2 kilograms up from that 74.5 kilogram photo. At this stage, for me personally, the finer details and all the lines in the shoulders and the back start to fade away, but I'm still holding where I'm comfortable and I feel so much better at this level of body fat. My energy levels are high, my mood is good, and I'm not hungry on a daily basis. This is actually a very good spot for me to maintain. I can have a social life here and I feel very, very good. Now, the reason I say social media has fucked us up, because if you compared this to someone like Mike Thurston or Matt Does Fitness, they're just two simple examples of elite genetics, and for them, they're pretty much able to stay fully shredded year round. And by the looks of the social media, it doesn't look like they struggle at all. Now, there's nothing wrong with that at all, unless you're comparing your genetics or lack of genetics to theirs. And worrying about your genetics or lack of good genetics is literally not going to do anything at all, and you can't change that, so you may as well just try and forget about it and just crack on with what you can. But what you can do is simply change your perception of what is achievable and what is sustainable for you to maintain year round. So here's a rough guide of what this might look like for most people. Now, please take this with a massive grain of salt, as when it comes to getting lean and body fat levels and building muscle, genetics play a huge role, and there's of course a lot of variance from person to person. But I wanted to give you some guidelines, and I'll also use some of my own clients, so it's real world people that I've seen, and kind of give you a bit of a guide of what you can expect, because I don't just want to be like, just try and get lean and see how you go. So if you have roughly 10 kilograms of body fat to lose, my guess would be that's going to take about 8 to 14 weeks of dieting in a 20% calorie deficit, and you're going to have to be 100% compliant pretty much the whole time. Now, what that simply means is you got to be on the ball with your diet. So you have to be in that 20% calorie deficit pretty much every single day. Of course, let's say you have a couple of off-plan meals here and there, no biggie, you should still hit it in that time frame, but you can't be like blowing out your calories every single weekend. You'll never get there. If you have 20 kilograms of body fat to lose, my guess is this would take about 16 to 32 weeks of dieting in a 20% calorie deficit, again being 100% compliant pretty much the entire time. Now, if you have 30 kilograms plus of body fat to lose, honestly, this is going to take you over 6 months if you want to do it in some form of sustainable way and you want to keep the results that you get. And doing this, you're also going to more than likely take some non-planned diet breaks. What I mean by that is pretty much you go on holidays, you have Christmas, New Year's, you won't be dieting the entire time, and that's totally fine. So what I highly recommend is, number 1, we have to stop using the socials to see what's doable. Number 2, set your own personal goals and just go after them. Don't listen to anyone else, because you will quickly find out whether you want to sacrifice what is needed to get there or not. And understanding the following will be required for 99% of you. The first one is going to be sacrifices. No/minimal alcohol, limited eating out / social events, tracking your food every day by following a meal plan or tracking macros, more than likely tracking your daily steps, training in the gym 3 to 6 times per week, and aiming to progress each week. Now, I know that I always talk about more of a flexible approach and not giving up your entire lifestyle for this, and that still is the case. But as you can see, as you get leaner and leaner and leaner and closer to that goal or closer to that full-blown six-pack, it does get harder. You do get hungrier, you do get more cravings, you do get less energy, and there's just less room for error. So that's why trying to fit in alcohol and social events and all that kind of stuff becomes a lot harder. And honestly, for most people, it's not doable if you're trying to get a full-blown six-pack. And this is why lots of people, lots of coaches will tell you, don't worry about it. It's unnecessary and it's not needed. And for a lot of you, maybe that is the case. But anyway, number 2, discipline over motivation. There will be plenty of times along this journey that you don't want to train, you don't want to hit your macros, you don't want to do your daily steps, but this is where the discipline needs to kick in and you just simply cannot rely on motivation. And number 3, simply remembering that you didn't gain 10 kilograms in 10 days, so you're not going to lose it in 10 days either. Sounds kind of grim, right? Well, for some people, it can be. And that's why you need to realize if it's worth it for you, or at least how far you want to take it and how lean you want to get. And honestly, that's the whole point of the video and why I made it. Because this way, you won't get disappointed with the progress and the outcome. And that alone will keep you making progress forever into the future. One of the biggest progress killers that I see with so many people is simply that their expectations of the sacrifice needed to achieve the goal they want is way off. I'm talking people that need to drop 20 kilos of body fat to see a six-pack, and they're thinking they can do that in 6 weeks because someone on social media said that they can. Getting a six-pack is simply not that easy for most people. But to flip this around to something more positive and a bit more realistic is the good news is getting there is the hard part. Getting to your six-pack or just your desired level of body fat is the hard part. Maintaining it, like we said at the start of the video, or maintaining just slightly above it is a lot easier. So hopefully that sheds some real world insight into what it actually takes to get lean and to get proper six-pack lean. And now you can simply decide if that goal is worth it to you or not. So just join me on the journey and just don't let social media make you feel shitty about the progress that you are making and warp your minds of what's possible in what amount of time frame with what kind of sacrifices. Comparison is the thief of joy, only if you let it. See you guys in the next one.